Welcome back to New Equity Network Show. All right, Michael Yorba, your host here on the show. My co-host is Ed Baxter, and our special guest today is Michael Hanberry. He is the president of BTJ Consulting. They're a consulting company in the oil and gas industry. But they're not a focused company on just one product. They have an entire portfolio of things that they work at, and they bring different projects to play in different market conditions. And funny as it is, that you don't think of the industry sector that way, but if you have a consulting company, you're able to be far more nimble in bringing different projects at different times when different parts of the oil industry are really at a buying level where you've got growth to them. So, Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Michael. It's good to be here.
My pleasure. Now, first time on the show, give our audience a background of your history in the oil industry, how you came up with the concept of BTJ Consulting, and then let's get into some of the types of industry sectors your company works with.
Well, I had come into the industry on the working side of it, slinging chain and working tongs for Booker drilling on a sun gas rig back in the 80s. My father was in the business. Most of my friends were in the business, and I ended up back in the business after coming out of the military. But what I wanted to focus on after working with a couple of different companies, what I could see happening was that people weren't really getting, in my opinion, an honest opportunity. They weren't getting enough information. They were kind of getting ramrodded into deals that didn't make sense for their position, whether they were trying to do wealth creation or wealth preservation. They were just getting pitched in oil and gas projects. So we put together a company that would essentially give them an opportunity to look at deals across the sector. So whether they were trying to create wealth and they wanted a real sexy deal for 80% annual return, that eventually would level off into a sustained rate and make 20 or 25% or even less, maybe even 15, but or be into the wealth preservation side where maybe you were working with nothing but publicly traded companies, billion-dollar plus, like Halcon or Exxon or Shell or ConocoPhillips, operating the property and owning the deed or the mineral rights as in a royalty interest play, so that it doesn't start out a very sexy deal, but these deals steamroll past any individually owned and operated drilling deal. In that they can continue to grow from 4 to 7% to 10% to 20% and maybe 30 or 40% as they continue to drill wells on the property. They're 1031C exchange friendly, IRA 401k friendly. So it gives fellows that have an opportunity to maybe sell a piece of property in California for $5 million. They got 45 days to move it. They lose $2.5 million to the tax man. They don't want to do that. So it's a perfect opportunity on the royalty side and the wealth preservation side for them to move. So.
Now, Michael, you've recently come off a string of success. You hit 6 wells in a row, and you're about ready to hook these wells up to a pipeline. Give us a history of a deal you recently finished, and then tell me why Ed, I want you to jump in anytime here. Tell me forward-looking types of projects that you're looking at. But first, bring us up to speed on what's happened on the last deal.
Well, we were outside of Tulsa in Muskogee County. Specifically, trying to drill opportunities right now you buy low, sell high, you drill low, at a lowest price possible while prices are down. And, the majors have to, have $80 oil in the shale to make it profitable. A lot of these rigs are getting stacked. Equipment and people are sitting on the sidelines. If you have a position that's not leveraged, if you have economical properties that you can drill, and what we look for are obviously, very economical drills. These are shallow wells that have multiple pay zones that are already known, proven oil fields surrounded by production that they may have come through 40 or 50 years ago, checkerboarded the area, and left high positions or structures behind that still need to be drilled out. So, we've got every confidence that, number one, we can drill at $100, $150 a foot and still, make it profitable and be able to do this in an economical fashion, even at $20 oil.
All right. Now, you mentioned something, a big factor with, the majors versus the smaller independents. They've got debt service. They go out, they issue bonds, and then they've got to pay this interest on the debt. And the price of oil went from 140 down to 148, down to 43. So that really kicked them right in the gut. And whereas you're not experiencing that kind of squeeze. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, their position is difficult and during times like this, and where ours is exactly the opposite. We kind of make hay while the sun shines when prices are low, because again, I get equipment cheaper, I get people, and the opportunities that we're playing at this time. You can have $20 oil and still participate, but things are getting better for us, not worse, because the lower the price of oil goes, the more equipment and people we can get less expensively. So it's the perfect time to drill these shallow, very economical wells, as opposed to, if you're a major, you got to have, $80 oil to make it profitable.
Right. Well, we're watching crude go from $43 a barrel. Right now, I think it went $61.52 last check that I got, but I also saw that it went over $62 a barrel. So give me your feeling about what's going on with the price of crude oil. And Ed, again, jump in whenever you got a question.
Well, the one thing that stands out, I think, as far as Mike's stories is concerned so far, is that how are you able to put together the vision to look at 3 areas of energy, and whether it's drilling, whether it's buying and selling equipment, or whether it's also looking at the low risk and high yield associated with the lease operations or royalty owners. How are you able to articulate that vision so quickly and understand the market so deeply and take advantage of it in such a short amount of time?
Well, it wasn't a short amount of time. I mean, it was a school of hard knocks. You come through and watch what other people do and how they've made mistakes or they've lost other people's money. And the last thing we wanted to do was start a company that hurt people. We wanted to find a way to give everybody an opportunity that fit their need rather than just shove something down their throat. So, we had a lot of experience. We have, engineers and geologists and folks that really heavily scrutinize projects. And when we decide we want to get involved, only then do we share them if we're comfortable enough with the project itself. So, yes, we're surrounded by experts. I can't be the expert in every field. Certainly, I'm not an engineer or a geologist, but we have very, very proficient people that are around us to make sure that we're not misstepping. We're making sure that when we have an opportunity that we're going to share with our clients, that we've had the best in the business look at it, that it's the right time, the moment to put it out into the public, and that we've already got involved in it. So, our money's where our mouth is.
There's been a huge pullback in staffing from a lot of the drilling companies. All the equipment's, or a lot of the equipment has been put up into the yards. And I've heard some people out there saying that, and reputable people with, multinational corporations behind them saying, look, it's a lot easier to shut it down than it is to ramp it back up. And with this oversupply, of oil in the storage tanks out here, are we looking at something that could just surprise everybody, catch them all flat-footed when it comes to the supply-demand ratio as we go forward?
I don't think so. I mean, just the fact, you hear Exxon going from $3 billion to $2 billion in drilling, they're still working. I mean, that's still $2 billion in a drilling budget. That's a lot of drilling. But taking $1 billion off of that certainly going to slow things up. You've got the overseas with Iran. If they come back online, if Obama puts them online, that's going to cause a glut. You've got Russia. It's getting pinched right now by the Saudis. They don't intend to scale it back at all.
Well, let me jump in there because we got about a minute left in the segment. What's your thoughts on oil prices? I mean, they look to be breaking out here. They just recently broke out over the highs that have been, holding them captive here. The February highs about $56 a barrel. Now they're headed they went over $62 a barrel. Do you think we're going to continue to see higher prices?
I think we are, but I think 70 or 80 is a real solid base. I mean, if you're listening to T. Boone Pickens, he says it's going next 12 to 18 months, it'll be back around 100. But I think in the next 6 months, you can see 70 or 80 pretty easy.
Okay, is that one of the things that caused you to bring in another type of company? Say, like if you're looking at a royalty project right now, do you see that is also something that people should be considering for their portfolios these days? Absolutely, and when you look at these royalty projects, you got to understand, you can have an independent out there. The oil well doesn't know that Exxon's on it or I'm on top of it. But some of these guys are very, very conservative. And so when you say, hey, HK or Halcon on HK on the big board or Exxon or Shell or, ConocoPhillips is the one operating your property, that gives them an additional level of comfort. And like an annuity,
you have that deed that's going up in value, okay, whether they drilled another well out there or not. You know, the more production, obviously the more value you have, and you can turn around and sell that at any time, like that you can in a JV or a joint venture if you're drilling wells. So it gives them some flexibility, but the annuity, it's like an annuity that goes up with the price of oil. If they buy in at 60 and goes to 100.
All right, let's talk about what's in a royalty deal on the next segment. But before we go, please, contact information for you.
It's btjconsulting.com, or you can call our office at 469-518-5008.
All right, we'll be right back for more conversation with Michael Hanberry, BTJ Consulting, on the New Equity Network Show.